Good evening, everyone, and all. It gives me immense pleasure that Latha has agreed to speak on our forum, Association of Indian Research Scholars. We have been active since September 2020 and have successfully hosted eminent scholars including Nom Choksi, Professor Jobs Noy, Professor Haragopal, Professor Rajin Harshe, Professor Zoya Hassan, Professor Afroz Alam, and many others. We also released two newsletters, which included not just webinar reports, but also opinion piece by scholars from across India. If you have any piece you want to publish, do consider sending it to us in our official email. We are available on social media platforms, so do connect with us, share, like, subscribe to our updates, and this is very special day for me, and I'm moderating today session on such a relevant topic. My name is Deshdeep, and I'm pursuing my master's from University of Hyderabad. And let me introduce you all to the speaker today. And our speaker for today is Latha K.V, and she's gonna discuss party switching under the fourth-party system in India. She's assistant professor of political science in Government College affiliated to University of Mysore, Karnataka since 2017. Completed masters and MPhil from Department of Political Science, University of Hyderabad, and her MPhil dissertation titled Formalized Elitism MP led found utilization in Telangana 2009 to 2014. Examined how MPs spent their funds to cater both the resource rich and the vote rich constituencies. I have published, Latha has published articles in journals, edited books, and also presented papers at national and international conferences. She was part of many field-based surveys conducted by CSDS New Delhi, Lokniti, and she also participated in workshops analyzing the quantitative data organized by CSDS Lokniti, Jain University at Bangalore in 2015, and at Delhi in 2016. Her research interest includes studies election studies, party politics, defection, and democracy in India. And I'm glad to share that she's pursuing her PhD under supervision of Professor K.K. Kailash in Department of Political Science, University of Hyderabad. And now I'm gonna hand over the talk to the speaker. Latha, over
Okay.
to you.
Thank you, Deshdeep. First of all, I would like to thank AIRS and Ariba for giving me such a wonderful opportunity because this is a platform where many of my own teachers have, my own professors have presented, and my own seniors from the university have presented, and this gives a platform for emerging research scholars like us to share our ideas and to get to learn more, and the topics that are given are also like very wide. So once again, I thank the association, especially under these kind of difficult and gloomy times. Taking up such an online activity was very helpful, especially like I used to listen to most of my professors while cooking or doing some other works, so that I don't miss listening to any of them. If I could not join live, but I would always listen to them afterwards. So since this my topic that I would be talking is very vast, it's difficult to talk on all the aspects. Maybe I would talk about the broad top themes, and then I can take up during the question answer session. So before I begin, let me first tell how I have organized today's talk. So first, I have divided the talk into four parts. The first part, I would talk about the concept of party switching, and in the second part, I would talk about the anti-defection law. And in the third part, I would talk about party system and party switching in India. And in the fourth part, I would mostly talk about party switching under the fourth party system, that is from 2014 to the present. In the last 7 years, what has been the patterns with regard to party switching. So, before we move on to the first part, let me ask a fundamental question of why should we discuss about party switching, also called as defections, or famously or infamously called as Ayaram Gayaram politics. So, basically, I put forward three reasons why it is essential to discuss party switching. The first one is party switching has become a new normal in Indian democracy. And because on almost daily basis, we hear about politicians switching from one party to the other. From the moral or the normative perspective, defection is considered as violation of the principle of representation because it is considered that that contract is violated. Without consulting the voters, the defectors switch to other party. So here the consent of the voters is not taken, therefore it is seen as violation of representation. So the second reason why it is important to discuss or talk about party switching is that from the past 7 years, that is from 2014 onwards, we have seen a phenomenal increase in the number of defection. For example, as my data shows, there were around 41 Lok Sabha MPs who switched and 13 Rajya Sabha MPs, and in almost all state except for Jammu Kashmir, where I could not find any defection cases, in all states there were defections. In some states maybe it's less, like only 4 or 5, but in large states like West Bengal, Uttar Pradesh, and in states like Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, sometimes the numbers were like 40 to 50. So, and we are not just in total there were around more than 400 MLAs who have switched parties. We are not just concerned about the number of switches, but we are more concerned about the kind of consequences that party switching would have on the legislature and also on the government. So broadly, I can see that this party switching in the past 7 years has brought in three different kind of changes on the legislature. The first one is the balance of power has been shifted. So, for example, in Sikkim, BJP did not win even a single seat. But due to defection from Sikkim Democratic Front, when 12 of the MLAs defected from Sikkim Democratic Front to BJP, BJP now is the main opposition party in the legislature. So the second one is in several states like Goa, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, and Uttarakhand, the elected governments were toppled. Then the third reason is in several states like Telangana, Assam, Punjab, and Sikkim, the main opposition parties, they lost the opposition status because the MLAs switched to or defected to the ruling parties. So basically these three changes, the change in balance of power, the elected governments being toppled, and the opposition government losing the status of opposition. And the third important reason why it is significant to examine party switching is, despite having anti-defection law which bans or which tries to curb defection, defections have become everyday business. So therefore, I think it's very essential to discuss on such a topic. So with this brief introduction, now let me move on to the first part, that is the concept of party switching. So party switching refers to any change in the party affiliation by a politician who is holding or contesting for an elected office. We know that switching is not limited only to the legislature. Switching also include a whole lot of non-political politicians like army officers, sports stars, or film stars, or activists, or businessmen, etc. But we, being political science students, are more interested to examine party switching among the elected representatives because it is they who change the balance of power in the legislature. So, party switching is known by different nomenclatures, like it's called as defection in India, partisan conversion, inter-party movement, floor crossing, party hopping, etc. So, in simple terms, party switching refers to an elected legislature, that is, an MP or an MLA, leaving his present party either to join a different party or to start a new party or to declare himself as an independent. So, party switching is not specific to India. Party switching is prevalent in most of the representative democracies, but there are variations in the number of defections. For example, party switching is very common in countries like South Africa, Brazil, Italy, Russia, Canada, Nepal, Philippines, Taiwan, etc. And obviously India. Um, the reason for eye defection in these countries is um, any one of this, like it might be because of the voting based on ethnicity or personality, or weak party institutionalization, or lack of clear ideological or programmatic difference. However, party switching is a rare phenomena in established democracies like United Kingdom, USA, and Australia. This is because of the existence of two-party system and strong party cohesion, and also there is strong ideological orientation among these parties, and also these countries have a stable party system. And according to a study, it was found that in countries like Austria, Chile, Sweden, and Switzerland, they did not experience any party switching. So I think this might be because these countries follow proportional representation, where the candidate's success in election depends on the party rather than on the candidate. So party switching is gender in the literature is studied using a rational choice approach and also institutional approach. So I use a rational choice approach in my study. So rational choice approach assumes that legislators would defect in order to get higher benefits than what they have. Likewise, political parties are also will also accept only those legislatures when the payoffs of accepting them are more. So, legislators, being a rational actors, would first scan all the available options and then choose the best party, or the party which would give them higher benefits. So, as mentioned in the literature, legislatures switch parties for several reasons, and these reasons can be broadly categorized into motivational factors and institutional factors. So, under the motivational factors, the first one is re-election motive. Since we all know that politics is a passport to prosperity. That means once you are in politics, you get power, prestige, status. So once they're in politics, they don't want to stay away from the power. So if the party denies them ticket, they would join a party which would offer them the ticket. Or in order to win, they switch to a party which is likely to win. So to quote an example, so there is this MP called MP called Rajesh Tako from Arunachal Pradesh. He switched from BJP to Congress, and he said that he switched from Congress because he switched to the Congress because he was denied ticket by the BJP, and he said he may rejoin BJP if he gets ticket. So they are openly claiming that they switched because they were not given ticket. So the second important reason why the switch is office motive. So what do I mean by office motive is office motive mostly the giving ministerial position or chairman of some boards or committee post. So any some other benefit, not just an MLA or MP post, you get an office benefit. The third reason is legislatures also switch from the opposition to the ruling party in order to receive constituency development funds. So if they are in the opposition, they are less likely to get funds. So therefore, they switch to the ruling party. So legislators sometimes also switch due to the ideological or policy difference between the party and the legislators. So these are the motivational factors, the votes, the policy, and the office. And now let us see what are the institution factors that would motivate them to switch. So if the candidate is selected under a centralized process, then switching is likely to be more. In contrast, if the candidate is selected by a participatory process, then switching is likely to be less. So similarly, the number of parties in the parliament also influences number of defections. So if the parliament has more number of parties, the defections are likely to be more. So the next one is the level of party institutionalization. So if the party system is highly institutionalized, then the number of defections are likely to be low. In contrast, if the institutionalization of party system is very weak, then we would see more uh, defections because there is a weak party attachment among the voters. So in general, from the normative perspective, party switching is considered as bad or something that violates the basic principle of representation. But in contrast, scholars looking from the rational choice approach see it as something which is part of the system, and sometimes it is seen as something which can be used to better represent the constituents. So legislators, being human beings, sometimes they express their emotions for changing parties. So here I would tell two examples. For example, an MLA called Azaria from Assam, he switched from Assam Gana Parishad to the BJP, and he said that on the day he switched, he said that today I feel like a daughter who is leaving her parents home after marriage, because he is having that kind of emotion for leaving his party. Similarly, this is an example from an interview with a village sarpanch in Nizamabad district in Telangana state. So he was around 55 years old, and he said that he switched from TDP to TRS because his MLA of the constituency switched to the TRS. So basically, to get funds to develop his panchayat, he switched. But he said that the moment he hears TDP's name, he starts getting goosebumps because he has that emotional attachment to the party, because he worked from the age of 15 to the party until almost like when he was till 55. So but we can draw one common thing from these two examples is, though human beings have attachment towards the party and are emotional for leaving the parties, somewhere their rational choice or the real politics that dominates more than the emotions. So with this, let us move on to the second topic of today's discussion, so about anti-defection law. So first, let us see about the context in which anti-defection law was introduced in India. So, as we know, defections were not something new to India. Like, we had defections right from the first general election. But in 1967, India witnessed high frequency of defections. So, within like 5 years, from 67 to 72, there were nearly 2,000 defectors that included MLAs, MPs, everyone. So, when the number of defections increased, and also the consequences that the defections had on the government was drastic, a committee was appointed first, YB Chauhan committee, to study defections. The committee submitted its report within 1 year in 1968 itself, but however, like the government did not take any action on the report. Later, in 1973, for the first time, Indira Gandhi introduced a bill. Again, in 1978, under Janata government, a bill was introduced to bring anti-defection law. But however, both this time, the bill was defeated because some of the legislators opposed for considering voting against the party switching as defection. So later on, when Indira Gandhi again came back, she did not show much interest to bring such a law. And after her death, once Rajiv Gandhi assumed power, that too with a landslide victory, winning more than 400 seats, that is almost more than 70% of the Lok Sabha seats, he had, in his election campaign, promised that he wants to end corruption. And also to build his image as Mr. Clean or Clean, his government introduced the bill within 8 weeks after coming to power. So the bill was introduced on 24th January 1985, and the bill was unanimously passed in Lok Sabha on 30th January 1985, and it was passed the next day by the Rajya Sabha. So, with this 52nd Constitutional Amendment Act, anti-defection law was added, and it added the 10th schedule to the Constitution. And Rajiv Gandhi called it as a first step towards politics to end politics without principles. So, after discussing the origin of anti-defection law or the context in which such law was introduced in India, now let us move on to discuss what constitutes defection and when can the legislature be disqualified for under defection. So, over a period of time, by various court judgments, Supreme Court has reiterated that defection does not merely mean formal resignation to a party and joining other party. The court has said that even without a formal resignation, based on the behavior of the MLA, like how he behaves outside the parliament or assembly, also matters. For example, if a particular MLA is participating in the election rallies or meetings of opposition party or a different party, he can be disqualified. So it's not just the official or the formal resignation, even his behavior, even through his behavior, he can be disqualified under anti-defection law. So basically, the MLA or MP can be disqualified under the following cases: if he resigns from one party and joins other party, or if he violates party whip, or if an independent candidate joins a political party, he will be disqualified. Similarly, if a nominated if a nominated MP or MLA joins a political party after the expiry of 6 months, he can be disqualified. So, with the enforcement of anti-defection law in 1985, the number of individual defections temporarily were reduced. But however, the group defections or the mass defections continued because there was always a chance to defect through splits and mergers. Therefore, in order to limit even the group defections or the mass defections, Constitution was again amended in 2003. So the 91st Constitutional Amendment brought some more modifications to the anti-defection law. So what are these changes? So the first one is the threshold for merger was raised from 1/3 to 2/3. So initially it was if 1/3 members switch merge with other party, then they were exempted from defection. So that threshold was raised from 1/3 to 2/3. And splits were no more considered as defections. And the third one was there was a cap on number of ministers, number of council of the size of the council of ministers. So it was limited to 15% of the total strength of the legislature. The other important change was so the those who were disqualified for defecting parties, they could not be appointed as ministers unless they were re-elected. So these were the changes. So this amendment aimed to make it more stringent so that the group defections also would reduce. But despite having such a law for almost 36 years now, defection continued to occur on a regular basis. Therefore, some scholars view that the law should be completely scrapped, while others are of the opinion that instead of scrapping, the law should be modified and the punishments should be made more stringent. So, with the law, we always see that there are some major criticisms against this law. First one is like it curtails the free exchange of ideas. And the second one is that it suppresses the debate. And the third one is it weakens the accountability. So here, what do I mean weakens accountability is that, so legislators can always say that they did not enjoy the freedom to act according to their own conscience because they were forced to act according to the party orders. So we know that in spite of having this law for more than 3.5 decades now, defections continue to happen. So now let us look at the loopholes which has been used or misused by both the political parties and also the legislatures. So the first loophole is the power to decide on disqualification of defection is given to speaker. So we all know that speaker mostly belongs to the ruling party. So therefore, he obviously favors the ruling party while deciding on the cases of defection. The second loophole is there is no fixed limit on the speaker to decide on defection. Since there is no time limit, the speakers have always used it to the advantage of ruling party. So whenever the defection is from the ruling party to the opposition party, the speakers would act very quickly. In contrast, if the defection is from the opposition party to the ruling party, they take years. By that time, even the term of the legislature would end. So I'll tell an example here. So for example, in Telangana, both in 2000, after 2014 elections and 2018 election, nearly 40 MLAs are defected from various opposition parties like Congress, TDP, YSRCP, even CPM to the TRS, but none were defected. However, when some of the TRS MLCs voted to an independent candidate in the Legislative Council election, they were disqualified within days. So we find such examples even in states like West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, Punjab, Manipur, and so on, where the speakers have used the time, I mean, no fixed time limit for their own advantage or to the advantage of the ruling party. So the third loophole is exemption of mass defection. So the law has been criticized for considering individual defection as something morally wrong, but for allowing group or mass defections through mergers. So we see that many of them do not get punished under the law because I mean, if there are 15 members, then if the 12 or 13 members join other party, it doesn't come under defection because it is considered as merger. The fourth loophole is that the defectors are not barred from contesting in the subsequent election. So time and again, it has been discussed whether legislatures are disqualified only to the end of the term or where until the can they contest in the bypolls or not? So the Supreme Court, both in the Tamil Nadu case in 2017 and the Karnataka case in 2019, reiterated that those who are disqualified have the right to contest in bypolls. So as the defectors are assured that they can contest in the upcoming bypolls, they easily resign to their membership. So this is what we saw in Karnataka, in Goa, in Gujarat, and in Madhya Pradesh. So because of all these loopholes, there has always been some suggestions that so that the law can be modified. So the first one is fixation of a time frame to decide on defection. Even recently in Meghachandra Singh case in 2020, the Supreme Court said that the speaker should act on cases of petitions of disqualification within 3 months, except in rare cases which need reasonable time. In all cases, the speaker should act within the given time limit. So instead of giving the authority to decide the defection to the speaker, instead an independent agency or a separate tribunal has to be appointed. This is other suggestion that is made. So the third suggestion is disqualification should be until the end of the term, so that when the option of contesting in bypolls is cut out, we see less defection because politicians want to be always in power. They don't want to wait for 5 years or 6 years because 5 years or 4 years is a long term for them. They always want to stay in the limelight. And also defectors should be barred from being appointed as ministers. So we know that most of the defectors who join the ruling party would be given certain position in the government. And also there is a suggestion that we need to abolish the exemption given to the mergers so that defections will be reduced. So as I have mentioned earlier, defections are not specific to India. So as of 2015, nearly 40 countries had some or the other form of constitutional regulations on defection. In one study, it was highlighted that the older democracies were less likely to have such a law because, as we discussed, party switching is also rare in such established democracies. However, most of the African and Asian countries had introduced such law mostly from 90s onwards. So I guess the probable reason for this could be that new democracies witnessed multi-party system from 1980 onwards. So with the multiplicity of parties and increased competitions, defections would have increased. Therefore, to curb this phenomenon, most of these African and Asian countries have come up with anti-defection laws. So, with now, let us move on to discuss the third part of our discussion, that is party system and party switching in India. So, the existing studies on Indian politics have classified the Indian party system from 1952 to the present broadly into four phases or into four party systems. So, the first party system is between 1952 to 1967. So, this is also called as Congress dominance era by Rajni Kothari. And the second party system is from 1968 to 1989, which was also called as Congress opposition era. And the third party system is from 1990 to 2014. This was called as coalition era by Yogendra Yadav. And the fourth party system is from 2014 to the present. And this phrase is used mostly in the works of Rahul Verma, Suhas Palshekar, Pradeep Chibbar, and Milan Vaishnav. So now let us discuss party switching in India under these four phases or under these four party systems. So in this section, I would like to highlight the probable reasons why defections were less in the first and the third party system, but defections were very frequent under the second and also in the fourth party system. So now let us start with the first phase, that is from 1952 to 67. So as mentioned earlier, Rajni Kothari calls it as the phase of Congress dominance because Congress party dominated both at the center and in states. So electorally, it was the Congress which was able to win. He further says that Congress party acted as a party of consensus. That is, Congress party tried to accommodate all diverse interests within the party. In addition, the opposition parties that existed during this time, they acted as parties of pressure. So therefore, the opposition parties were not strong enough to provide an alternative to the Congress party. So, in this phase, there were defections, but the number of defections and the consequences of defections on the legislature were very minimal. Um, as Subhash Kashyap notes, from 1952 to 67, that is almost for 15 years, there were only 542 defections, which is very less when we compare with the second defections under the second party system. So in this phase, it was the Congress party that gained large from the that was the gainer from the defectors. For example, 490 legislatures joined the Congress, whereas only 97 Congress legislatures moved away from Congress to join other parties. So now let us identify some of the reasons, some of the main reasons for fewer defections or less number of defections in the first party system. The first reason is absence of strong alternative parties. So as I mentioned, legislatures would always defect only when there are alternatives available. It's a calculated behavior. They see that if which party is offering them more benefit, they would switch to that party. So, since the opposition parties could not compete, there was no alternative. The opposition parties could not compete with the Congress basically for two reasons. First, the opposition parties were limited to particular geographical area. And second, they were also very limited in their social base. They did not have a wide base, unlike the Congress, which tried to incorporate all sections into its fold. So the second reason is the lack of incentives to switch to the opposition. Since Congress party dominated both at the center and in the states, uh, so winning absolute majorities at the center and states, legislatures did not find any incentive to switch to the opposition parties, because the three important factors that influence legislatures, that is votes, office and policy, were all controlled by the Congress. So when everything is concentrated, whatever the legislators wars is concentrated with the Congress, they didn't find any reason why they should move away from Congress. The third reason is organizational machinery of the Congress. So as we know, Congress had an elaborate and very well organized party system, especially in the first party system. In contrast, the opposition parties did not have such a organized party machinery. So the members of the party would stay loyal when the party system is well organized, because they know that if they stay loyal to the party, they can move in the hierarchy, party hierarchy, and also in their political positions. Conversely, in a weakly organized party system, members worry that their rewards might be taken over by the defectors through the lateral entry. So the next reason is clear majorities in the parliament and state legislatures. So unlike the second phase, which we'll be discussing, both in the center and in the states, parties were able to win clear majorities, and there were no coalition governments. So as the literature points out, defections are more when the number of parties in the parliament or legislatures are more, because the number of parties are more, the alternatives or the options available for the legislatures to switch to a party which is convenient to his ideas or to cater to his needs is greater. Thereby, we can argue that clear majorities in this phase reduce the options available for the defectors. The fifth reason is ideological consensus within the Congress party. So legislators are more likely to switch parties when there arises a ideological difference between the party and the legislature. So this type of defections were minimized because under Nehru's leadership, there was increased scope for debates and criticism. And even it was interesting to note that the number of private bills that were passed in this phase were higher. Like after that, we never had so many private bills being passed. So the sixth reason is existence of intra-party democracy. The Congress party allowed different voices to be heard, and it tried to accommodate various groups within the party. This limited the rebels to move away from the Congress, and they, being within the Congress, they were able to express their dissent or voice within the party. So now let us discuss the defections under the second party system, or as it is also called as post Congress dominance phase, that is from 1968 to 1989. So by the time of fourth general election, several things had changed within the Congress party and also within the nation. With the death of leaders like Nehru, the importance that was given to intra-party democracy, party organization, and also the consensus within the party got changed significantly. So this slowly led the dissatisfied legislators to move away from the Congress, either to join other party or to start their own party. So the year 1967 is considered as a landmark in Indian politics, because this was the first time the Congress party was challenged. I mean, the monopoly of the Congress party was challenged in politics. For the first time, non-Congress governments were able to form governments in 7 states. So until then, Congress dominated both at the center and in the states. So in this phase, we see that though Congress continued to stay in power at the center, there was rise of opposition at the state level. So this phase saw the highest number of defections, and in many states, elected governments were toppled or replaced due to defections. And this also led to instability in the defections, and this led to frequent imposition of president's rule. So the reasons for this increased defection in this second party system could be the first one, the rise of coalition governments at the states. For the first time, Congress party was not a majority party in several states. So this resulted in legislatures who were part of the coalition government constantly changed the parties whenever they were denied ministerial berths. So the second reason is when Congress party lost its majority in several states, it tried to regain its lost strength through defections. That is, Congress started to bring legislators who had left the Congress party. The third one, in this phase, several independent candidates were elected in various state assemblies, and they played a key role in changing the power dynamics. Basically through defections. So generally we know that an independent candidate is more likely to defect because unlike the party candidate, they do not have any compulsion to stay with the party. The fourth reason is the split in the Congress party. So, for the first time in 1969, Congress experienced its first major split when the party was split into Congress O under the syndicate and Congress R under Indira Gandhi. So, initially, some of the legislators had joined Congress O, and once they started knowing that it was Indira's Congress that was able to win more seats, they came back to join Mrs. Gandhi. So the fifth reason is in order to keep diverse interest, there was there was limitation on the resources that the Congress had. So new groups like intermediate caste or agrarian interests, they were not accommodated due to the limitation of the resources. So this resulted in Congress legislatures leaving the party in order to start their own party. So the sixth reason is under Indira Gandhi, the internal democracy that existed under Nehru got eroded. In addition, party organization became very weak because we know that Indira Gandhi tried to establish direct link with the voters. She wanted to do away with the middleman, or the connection had to be direct from or to the voters. So this weakened the organization and it led to centralization and concentration of power. So this increased the scope for the entry of defectors, and also the intra-party democracy was weakened. So this led the rebels within the Congress party to move away from the Congress. So this was about the second party system and defections, why defections were more in the second phase. So now let us move on to discuss the probable reasons for the defection under the third party system, that is from 1990 to 2014. So we know that by this phase, anti-defection law was already in place. So the number of individual defections were reduced. And however, there were mass or group defections continued through the exemptions that were allowed through mergers and splits. So this phase saw the rise of regional parties. So for the first time in Indian politics, regional parties started playing important role at the national politics. From 1990s, neither the Congress nor any other party was able to win clear majority to form the government at the center. So coalition became a norm even at the state level. Many states had coalition governments. So in this phase, the number of defections were comparatively less. However, this phase saw three major breakaways from the Congress. So, for example, NCP in Maharashtra, Trinamool Congress in West Bengal, and YSRCP in Andhra Pradesh. So, Congress almost lost all these big states because of the breakaways from the Congress. And in this phase, there were nearly 20 splits in the party, and there were around 25 cases of mergers. So the reasons for low defections under the third party system might be because since no party was able to gain clear majority at the center, regional parties were part of the coalition alliances. Maybe because the regional parties were partners of the government, regional leaders were able to realize all their political ambitions that we discussed, vote, office, and policy. They were able to get what they wanted because they are a part of the coalition government. That might be the reason. we see less number of defections in this phase. But as I mentioned, there were defections through splits and mergers. So, with the completion of the third party system, now let us move on to discuss about the party switching under the fourth party system. So, fourth party system is from 2014 to present. It is also called as second dominance system. So, in this phase, after almost like 3 decades of coalition politics at the center, for the first time, single party was able to win a clear majority in the parliament. So, BJP, which became a party which won majority of the seats at the center, was also able to control several state legislatures. In this phase, BJP was the largest gainer due to defection, and Congress party lost most of the legislature. It was a loser. Congress was the party which lost the more number of legislators. So now let me throw some light on the reasons for the increased defection, especially to the BJP under the fourth party system. Why did most of the defectors switch to the BJP? So the first reason is, since BJP won clear majority both at the center and in many states, and Congress performed very badly both at the center and it started losing out state after state, legislators being rational actors would have guessed that it's BJP is the best among the available alternatives to fulfill their ambitions of oath, office, and policy. So therefore, legislatures would think that it's beneficial to join party which is performing better, so they join BJP. The second reason is, since the presence of BJP initially, I mean, in the 90s, was limited to the Indi belt, it did not have strong state level leaders in states like Northeast and also in Western states. So BJP went beyond its Hindutva ideology and was ready to offer ministerial positions and important posts within the party for the defectors from various opposition party. Because they didn't have the leader, they wanted somebody from outside to come up so that they, with their name or using that important leader, they can build the organization in that particular state. So the third reason is, since elections have become competitive and fighting elections is costly, candidates look for party whose coffers or treasuries are full than being with a party whose treasuries are empty. So, according to ADR report from 2017 to 2019, BJP has received the highest financial contribution, and it earned almost nearly 13 times more than the combined donations received by other national parties. And it was stated that it was for the first time the gap between political parties in terms of donations had become wide. So BJP received the most donations, whether through electoral bonds or through corporate donation, all kinds of donations, BJP received the maximum, and the gap between BJP and other parties was far wide. The fourth reason is rewarding the defectors. So, in states like Goa, Assam, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Arunachal Pradesh, Tripura, so the list goes on. So, BJP had rewarded the defectors by giving them tickets to contest in the by polls or the subsequent polls. And in most of the states controlled by BJP, nearly or close to 50%, the BJP ministers had a better record than the defectors. So when defectors in one state are rewarded well, that influences the leaders in other state also to join BJP, because they expect that if they join, they also might get similar rewards. So with this, I mean, we have discussed the reasons why most of the legislatures chose BJP instead of other parties in the fourth party system. Now, let us move to the last part of our discussion, that is the various issues or patterns in the last 7 years. That is what kind of patterns that emerge, or what kind of patterns we can observe in defections from 2014 to the present. So let me begin by saying talking about the defection at the parliament and then move to the states. So first, compared to defection at the state level, this phase saw less number of defections in the Lok Sabha. There were around 41 MPs who changed parties I mean, when I looked for both terms, 2014 and also 19. But most of them switched towards the end of the term, so that they were not disqualified. The reason could be that from both in 2014 and in 19, BJP was able to win on its own. It did not require the support of MPs from other parties in Lok Sabha because it had clear majority. That might be the reason why in Lok Sabha we didn't had many defections, and most of these defections are not defections in proper sense because they all shifted just because they were not given ticket at the end of the term, mostly of those cases. However, unlike though there were around 12 defectors who joined BJP, only two defectors were given ministerial post. Unlike in states where most of the defectors were rewarded with a ministerial post, at the center we do not see MPs being awarded with a ministerial post because we know that at the center BJP want to give ministerial positions to those who come from the RSS background. At the states, they are able to compromise their ideology because they do not have state level BJP leaders in most of the states. However, at the center, they want to stick to their core RSS background people to be appointed as ministers. So it was fascinating to note that in Rajya Sabha, there were 13 MPs who defected and majority of them joined BJP, and none of them were disqualified because they either, most of them used the option of merger. So here it is significant to note the timing of defection in the Rajya Sabha. So in Rajya Sabha, many MPs joined between June to August 2019. So this was the time when BJP was trying to pass many of the key bills like triple talaq, CAA, NRC, etc. I mean, once it came to power in the second term, it wanted to bring many of the bills which it did not bring in the first term. Therefore, we see that the timings of defection is also very important. We also know that BJP did not enjoy majority in the Rajya Sabha. Therefore, it tried to win the Rajya Sabha through the route of defection. So, it wanted to gain majority in the Rajya Sabha. It's also significant to note that out of 12 nominated members, nine of them joined BJP. This was also one of the means that the BJP used to increase its strength in the Rajya Sabha. So now let us discuss a little bit about the electoral performance of the defector. So this is for all states to combine. So in most of the established democracies, we see that the electoral cost for the defectors is very severe. I mean, they perform very badly in the subsequent elections because they lose out their traditional support base. So, however, in India, we see a mixed result. So under certain conditions, defectors perform better. At certain other condition, they do badly. So in addition to this kind of mixed results, we also have some outliers. For example, there's this MLA called Ravi Kumar, who is an MLA for Adanki constituency in Andhra Pradesh. So he contested from three different parties in 2009, 14, and 19. But he was able to win all three times. So initially he was in Congress and then he moved to YSRCP and then he moved to TDP. But he was able to win with with increased vote share than the previous time. And also each time he was in the opposition party. So it was observed that most states, the defectors resigned and they all joined the ruling party. And if it was, whenever the defectors contested in the by-polls, for example, in states like Goa, Karnataka, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, we see this pattern of resigning and contesting the by-polls. The defectors most of them are able to win. So now let us discuss a little bit on the electoral performance of defectors when they contest as independent candidates. So from 1990s onwards, it's been a general trend to see that though there are more number of independent candidates who are contesting, the number of independent candidates who are able to win has been reduced. Similarly, voters seem to be not preferring the defectors when they contest as independent. So they contest as independent mostly when they are denied ticket by the party, because as I said, politics is a easy passport to prosperity. They want to stay in power. If the party doesn't give, they contest as independents. But here we can see that voters vote differently when the defector contest as independent and when the defector contest under a party label. So here we can discuss one example of Manabendra Shah. So he was the last king of the Garhwal kingdom, and he represented the Tehri Lok Sabha constituency on Congress ticket initially for 3 terms. And later in the year 1971, he contested as an independent candidate, but he lost in that elections. Again, quickly he joined to the BJP, and after joining BJP, he was able to win 5 more terms. So we see that the same person, when a contest under a party label, is able to win, but when the same person, same constituency contest as an independent candidate, it lost the election. So the reason could be that the voters are aware that independent candidates do not have much power to influence or bring policy level changes or to bring more developmental works to the constituency unless they're part of the government. So, in this phase, from 2014 to the present, among all MPs and MLAs, whoever contested as independent, none of them was able to win. And most of them who contested as independent, they even lost their electoral deposits because they were not able to secure even the minimum required percentage of vote. So similarly, voters do not prefer even those who contest under a new party label. So, for example, in Tamil Nadu in 2017, when after the death of Jayalalitha in 2016, 17 MLAs defected from AIDMK, and out of this 17, 16 joined the new party that was AMMM, Amma Makkala Munnetra Karagam, and one MLA joined DMK. So after the death of, this happened after the death of Jayalalitha in 2016. So the lone MLA who switched to DMK was able to win in the bypolls that happened in 2019. But all the rest who joined the new party Amma Makkala Munnetra Karagam, which was led by T.T. Dinakaran, they lost very badly. So none of them was able to get even 10% of votes, and many of them lost their electoral deposits. So now let me just put some insights on mergers. So from 2014 to 20, there were nearly 24 cases of mergers, and it was and most of these mergers were towards the ruling parties in the states. It was also noticed that mergers were more common among the small parties whose strength in the legislature was low. Because if there are only 15, if 12 switch, then it's merger. So, but the same thing doesn't apply to a larger party. So now let us also discuss about the rewards that are offered to defectors. So in most cases, irrespective of the party that they join, the defectors are given tickets to contest in the subsequent election. In rare cases, the defectors are not given tickets, but in most cases, they are given tickets. However, since there is cap on the number of ministers, as we discussed earlier, the number of ministers can't exceed the 15% of the strength of the legislature. The ministerial berths available are also limited. So it is interesting to note that in the year 1991, when there was no cap on the number of ministers, um, Kalyan Singh appointed almost 98 ministers as ministers. All these were defectors. So, but the same thing cannot be done now with the 91st constitutional amendment. So, uh, defectors are more likely to get ministerial position when the party needs them the most. For example, in Karnataka, 12 out of 15 defectors were given ministerial berths. Similarly, 14 out of 25 were made ministers in Madhya Pradesh. Because we know that in these both the states, it is because of the defectors the government was replaced. But in states where the party already enjoyed a majority, not many defectors were given ministerial position. We have Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, and West Bengal, where the parties already had majority. The defectors were given tickets to recontest, but not the ministerial positions. So now let us also discuss a bit on why do majority parties welcome defectors? Majority parties here, I mean, those who already have a clear majority, whether in the state assembly or in the parliament, why do they encourage defections? I mean, why do they take defectors from other political parties? So defections are not just limited to the coalition governments or to topple the existing governments. Basically, parties, even after having a majority, like for example in Gujarat, West Bengal, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, these states had clear majority, but they also witnessed large scale defections. The reasons could be identified as following three reasons. The first one is the territorial expansion. So, political parties, they might be performing well in certain areas, and they might not be performing well in some geographical areas within that state. So, in order to expand its support base, they welcome defectors. For example, TRS in Telangana was not performing well in the Khammam district, both in 2014 and in 2018. Several MLAs defected from Khammam district to the TRS. So, uh, so the territorial expansion might be one reason. The second reason could be to weaken the opposition. So in order to weaken the morale or the strength of the opposition, they encourage defections from opposition parties. So they want the legislature to be stronger legislature, that is the government to be more strong, so that they can pass any bill that they want without much opposition for the bills. So the third reason could be in order to influence elections at the other levels. So since ours is a federal country, elections takes place at multiple level, parliament, state election, and local body elections. So for example, in Telangana, many of the MLAs defected from opposition parties ahead of the legislative council election, urban body election, and local body election, because maybe the ruling party wanted to establish control at all the levels. So this is other reason why majority parties will also welcome defectors. Now, the last section. So let me show some insights on the role of money in defections. So whenever legislators defect, the role of money comes to the limelight. So when the publicly declared assets of defectors were compared, I mean pre-defection assets and post-defection assets, so this showed a drastic increase in the assets of the legislature. To note one example, Congress MLA from Pondicherry, whose name is Namah Shivayam, who switched to the BJP recently, his assets saw an increase of more than 1,000%. That is, before defection, it was 25 lakhs. After defection, when he contests from BJP, his assets are 27 crores. So similarly, in Karnataka also, there were several media allegations and some audio tapes also, which showed that BJP had bribed like crores of rupees to the JDS and Congress MLAs to resign to their party and to join BJP under both the Operation Kamala 1 and Operation Kamal 2. Operation Kamal 1 in 2008 and the second one in 2019. So to take one example from Karnataka, there was this MLA called MTB Nagaraj. He was a Congress MLA and he switched to the BJP in 2017. His assets increased more than 180 crores. And more interesting thing is his account received 53 term deposits in August 2019. So the timing is again important. It was in this phase that the JDS and the Congress government was replaced by the BJP. Um, so yeah, with this, I would stop here. I would be happy to take any questions.
Very informative and very
Okay.
insightful, well researched
Oh.
discussion, and things you brought. So there are comments, questions in common. So
Mhm.
first I can see is that what is the relevance of defection as instrument of upholding democratic principles?
Mhm. Relevance of, sorry, can you repeat?
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
question is, what is the
Mm.
relevance of defection as instrument of upholding the democratic principles? Like sometimes people say that defection is good as well in democracy sometimes, but
Mm.
like as we have seen, like most of the time defection is misused.
Yeah, okay. So, as I've already pointed out, there are two perspectives. One is the moral or the normative perspective. So, if you look at the normative perspective, defections are considered as something violation of the basic principle of representative democracy, because here you're not taking the consent of the voters. Without their consent, you're shifting. They voted for you because you contested from a particular party, but now you're joining to a different party, which they might not like. The ideology might be different, or there are various reasons why they would have voted to you based on particular party. Whereas those who look from the rational choice approach, they see something as part of the system. As I mentioned, most of the legislators also, those who switch from opposition parties to the ruling party, the most probable or the repeated reason that they give why they switch the party is for constituency development. They say that by being in opposition party, we were not able to do much developmental work to constituency. Now, by being with the government, I can bring more development. So, uh, how is it considered as violation of representation when I'm able to deliver them more? So it
Yeah.
depends on which perspective you take. Yeah, moral or the rational choice.
Hmm. So the next one is, how do you see party switching, having long term impact on Indian politics? Like in past few years, it is more frequent. So how do you see the future or impact of Indian politics?
Okay, yeah. If this kind of frequent defections continue to take place, already India is like burdened with the number of elections. We have urban election, then local election, then assembly. I mean, each year you have some other election happening. So with
Yeah.
the defections, and mostly they choose to resign and contest from a different party. So overall, the burden or there will be more wastage of taxpayers' money, and also I mean, there is no difference between the political parties in terms of ideology. Now, every party is welcoming, so that larger questions of difference in the party will be affected. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So in current regime, how do you or even as a voter, like how do voters get valued for their vote? Like political leaders just like politics, like this famous Ayaram and Gayaram is very famous.
Mhm.
Voters voted for one person, a particular coming from a particular party, then suddenly that person is changing the party. So how do you see or how do you feel about that, and how voters get valued for their vote they voted for that candidate?
Okay. Okay. Here, when we look at Indian voters, especially, they don't seem to have as strong party attachment, unlike what we see in Western countries. Because since there is lot of, greater party attachment in West, most of the defectors lose their election. But in India, we see kind of mixed response. Maybe we should look from the rational, using the rational choice approach itself. Voters are also being rational here. They are thinking when to elect a defector and when not to elect a defector. So when the defection is to the ruling party, they know that he can bring more developmental funds, or there are more chances of him being appointed as a minister. Obviously, if he's a minister, he will bring more to the constituency. So in those cases, they elect. But when they know that he's just contesting from a minor party or a small party or just as an independent candidate, they do not elect him. So so basically again here also voter, there were few interviews also which were conducted, and voters don't see it as a problem. So I don't care which party he belongs to, I just want some developmental work. So in that sense, if you see, so voters also don't seem to have problem. Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, we see that, Goa and some states from Northeast did not choose to, give their power to BJP,
Mandate.
but
Yeah,
then
yeah.
mandate. The mandate was for
Mm.
Congress, but then later,
Mm.
like, without even contesting, or a BJP took all the lead. So, how do you see that? How do you see voters' aspiration there?
Mm. Maybe in those cases, for example, take Sikkim itself. In Sikkim,
Yeah.
BJP didn't win a single seat, but now it's a main opposition party which has 12 MLAs. So over a period of time, voters will also start accepting that, because they don't have many options. I mean, that kind of public outrage or criticism for against the defectors we don't see in India, except in very rare cases. Most of the defectors are like welcomed with garlands and that fanfare, that kind of. So it depends on the especially in the northeast, where most of the time these parties are smaller parties. They depend on the parties from the center to receive more funds. So they don't see it as a problem over a period of time when they're able to get funds or to be part of the government. So yeah.
Yeah. So the next one is, what is the way forward from party switching politics, and what is the relevance of anti-defection law in India? Like, is it any more relevant, or how do you see, anti-defection law? Yeah, I think there is some technical glitch, and we're gonna fix it. Yeah, I think Latha has rejoined.
Hi, Deshdeep. I think she's lost connection, and we were anyway at the end of the session with only just one questions. So why don't you give
Yeah,
the vote
yeah.
of thanks and wrap it up?
Yeah, I think Lata
She's
has
back.
already, given lot to, think, and she left a lot of questions for us as a voter in a democratic state. So, I
Hello,
thank all of
can you
you.
hear?
And yeah, Lata, thanks for joining again. Yeah, I can hear you. Hello. Yeah. So, the next question is like,
They
uh,
వస్తుంది. You are in the show,
anti-defection law.
everyone can see and hear. Okay. So yeah, if you are able to hear, I would like to answer this. What is the way forward from party switching politics?
Yeah.
So some of the things that I can think of is, so in order to, it's been criticized, it's been highlighted that the anti-defection law is not being able to curb the defections. So the only option left out is to make parties more democratic. That is, to have regular elections within the party. So since this is a political problem, party switching is a political problem, we are not able to find, I mean, we are able to find a solution for it through legal means, that is through the laws. That is when we realize that that is not happening properly. So then the other ways through which party switching can be controlled is intra-party.
Yeah, I think, Lata is having some network problem. So I think we are gonna end the session, and I really want to thank all of you for joining us today. And I'm sure, you will agree when I say that it was a, great learning experience to hear Lata speak, and, her lucid argument, enthusiastic delivery, and, command over the topic, as well as the depth of the knowledge was very inspiring. And I thank President of AIRS, Ariba, for conceptualizing, realizing, and bringing this fruition, this lecture. I would also, like to thank our speaker for taking time out of her busy schedule to join us and give us these give us this enlightening lecture. Lata, this is a thank for you. And I also want to thank all the members who have worked tirelessly to make this event possible, making special mention of Aruna Anil Kumar, Ajab Rangeen Wala, and Manasa Yu. We at AIRS are grateful for the support, enthusiasm, and determination of the speaker, participant, and all the team of all the team at AIRS, and under the unfailing guidance of our president Ariba Mazam, this event was made possible. And again, I want to thank you and say good night, goodbye, and we hope to see you all on 30th webinar, that is on 15th of July, 3 p.m. On the topic is role of international law in the construction of minority identity in India, by Nazamuddin Ahmad Siddiqui. And yeah, have a good night ahead, and till next time, bye bye.